In every conversation that I've had with a trans person in the past few days, past week or so, I've felt the need to preface the exchange with, "How are you doing?" Yet I know the answer. Not good. Our marginal existence gives us the materials to craft a new world, but it also gives justification to those who seek to destroy us. This fundamental division line, gender, that around which lives, dollars, fears, desires all revolve, we pose a threat to the hegemonic regime called gender. That thing to which we all cling in some way or another. What will it be like to exist as a trans person under the Trump administration? Maybe that life is indescribable because maybe it just won't exist. Perhaps there will be no trans life in a Trump administration. Trump has made his stance clear, and the paths to destruction are easily derivable from what he's set down on the table. There's the obviously horrible stuff. He's promised to outlaw gender-affirming care for minors at the federal level. He has promised to withhold federal funds from any institution that promotes the concept of gender ideology. He promised to pass a bill that says that the government will only recognize male and female as genders and that these genders are assigned at birth. And that, of course, can have major repercussions for trans people's documentation. And what of Project 2025? Trump has said that he has nothing to do with Project 2025 and that he has no idea who's behind it. But let's not be naive. The people who worked on Project 2025 worked closely with him during his administration. He's lying. It's what he does. He lies. Project 2025 describes plans to outlaw pornography and to define anything having to do with transgender ideology as pornography, meaning anyone who is seen as promoting transgender ideology could be imprisoned. If they're, say, educators or teachers teaching about trans people or simply being trans people, they could be imprisoned or be put on the sex offender registry. Trans people could be imprisoned for simply existing. And oh, you might say that that's fear-mongering. That's not going to happen. Well, here's the thing. We have a situation where Trump has the Senate, he has the judiciary, and probably the House. The Supreme Court ruled that, as president, he has criminal immunity. If he wanted to, he could legally assassinate political opponents. Justice Sotomayor posed this hypothetical when dissenting to the criminal immunity ruling. Chief Justice Roberts did not elaborate on this possibility. He just called it fear-mongering. But he didn't address the point that it's now legally possible because he has criminal immunity. There's really nothing stopping him. A world which delivers fascism rests on a logic of nature. Our fundamental divide is not gendered, raced, class, but depends on a framework of understanding. The question that divides our world is this: is there a fundamental natural order to our existence as humans? If you believe in the liberation of all peoples, your answer is no. The project of liberation always seeks to make the artifice of the natural clear. It always seeks to show how the natural is always constructed, always with the purpose of limiting human possibility into a set of abstractions. But our society makes it so that the natural feels obvious. Aren't men naturally stronger than women? Well, what is strength? Why do we even measure strength? Why do we measure and place value on how much heavy shit you can lift? In another society, maybe we don't even have the concept of strength. So the answer is no. There is no fundamental natural order to our existence as humans. For to even posit the question is already to assume a network of socially constructed meanings that we take for granted. To the question, fascism answers yes. There is a fundamental natural order. It is harmoniously hierarchical, and the state must enforce its existence. Our nation will be strong and prosperous if we enforce the natural order. But the problem is that fascism denies that reality, society, is inherently antagonistic. There will always be conflict, but fascism cannot cope with this. Fascism believes in the possibility of returning to a natural order. But when confronted with this impossibility, it has to project that antagonism onto some element. Fascism cannot cope with the problem that social problems exist and that they will always exist, so it must project all of society's problems onto a certain group. Undesirables, degenerates, the less than. The 20th century shows how destructive this idea is. Have we learned anything? Liberals understand that society has antagonisms, But they account for this conflict with democracy and economic markets. Liberalism, liberal, democratic, capitalist societies make space for these contradictions. Perhaps this is why liberal societies, other than the violence and imperialism, are now hegemonic forces in the world. But liberals and fascists answer the dividing question in the same way. Is there a fundamental natural order to our existence as humans? They both say yes. But liberals believe that a market is the best expression of the natural order. Supposedly, the market allows individuals of differing natures to express these natures to the best of their abilities. A liberal capitalist democracy is assumed to be the end of history, the only system in which our natural order can meet its full potential. But when you have a liberal society, inevitably there's inequality. What happens when certain groups seem to do worse than other groups? The liberal, in the face of this, must accept that if the market is simply an expression of human nature, then these inequalities must be an expression of the natural order. Poor people have less wealth because that's the natural order, I guess. Marginal groups have worse outcomes because that's the natural order. Now, that's a simplification, but I think it gets to the root of our problem. Liberalism is fragile. We're witnessing its fragility right now. When antagonisms are high, and in liberalism, antagonisms can get high, people crave harmony. Fascism becomes an alluring temptation, and liberals aren't equipped to stop it because they too believe in the natural order. They, like fascists, believe in fundamental definitions and differences. Man and woman are categories that orient one towards sets of desires, positions, and affects. It is one of the many categories that define our lives, but it does not have to define who we are. Trans people are at the front of the gendered axis of this question. Trans existence exposes the fact of gender as an imposed orientation, a constructed structure of desire for all people. All gender is trans. All people are transgender. We are all set on a gendered path that we struggle with. We are told to dress in limiting ways, to mold our bodies to ideal sets of existences. Cisgender boys who get surgery for gynecomastia. Cisgender women who remove body hair in all sorts of painful ways. These are examples that show how pervasive gender trouble is. The project of liberation is in making that pain visible for all of us. I'm not sure if I believe in gender abolition as it's often presented. I don't believe in any project that promises perfection or that forces us to ignore our deepest attachments. But I believe, maybe naively, optimistically, that liberation is possible, that we can live in a world where categories do not limit our existence. That type of world is now farther than it has ever been. So what do we do? Well, if you're a queer person, and I suspect you are, connect with your local community now. If you're in a red state, I suggest leaving. And if you don't, I truly commend your commitment to your community. Make sure you build a network of fellow queer people who can be there to connect you to hormones, healthcare, housing, other support as we need it in the following years. There will be no one there to save us. We have to do it ourselves.